So I've been asked to react to a Ben Shapiro clip. I don't know what we're about to see. Let's just dive in. It looks like we have a little bit of time.
To get a flight out of town at a time certain with, getting everybody to come in from across the state, you need to fly privately.
I need to fly private. I can't fly with the peasants. The peasants smell and have chickens.
And now, in order to fight the supposed Republican Jim Crow assault, this means that Democrats have every ability to undermine the actual functioning workings of democracy. It's really impressive.
What is he talking about?
Unbelievable gaslighting and flip here. So the idea here is that Republicans are subverting elections by saying that voters should have verifiable means of voting. That is subverting elections. That is the new Jim Crow.
Of course, that's a distortion of what Texas Republicans are trying to strategically restrict voting in order to benefit themselves. That's what they're trying to do.
Meanwhile, Texas Democrats, in order to stymie Republicans from pursuing this new Jim Crow, get to simply abscond from the state of Texas, violate the law, and shut down basic majoritarian democracy in Texas. Okay, unlike on the national level, where we have a 50-50 split in the Senate, there is no 50-50 split in Texas. Republicans have an overwhelming majority in the state assembly in Texas. And so Democrats came up with a strategy. They didn't want to pass this voter ID law. They didn't want to pass a couple of bills that suggested that boys should play with boys and girls with girls in sports. And so they got on a plane and they flew to Washington, D.C. in order to deny Republicans a quorum. And these are the heroes of the day, according to the media.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think that they're heroes. And ultimately, I think they're going to lose. But Democrats just never fight. So I'm glad to see them try something. It will at least call attention to the reaction from Republicans, which was, let's see if we can arrest the Democrats. That was the reaction from many Republicans. So I admire that Democrats are doing something. Is it some big moral victory? No, it's not. And ultimately, they're going to lose on this because, as Ben points out, they don't have the majority. But what on earth is he talking about?
If you undermine democracy by simply walking out of the chamber and leaving the state so that you can't...
The voter suppression bill undermines democracy. They're trying to pass a bill to undermine democracy.
Be brought back to the chamber to vote in majoritarian fashion. Now you're a hero. You see, the filibuster is bad. A long-held standard in the United States Senate that's supposed to promote debate and conciliation. That's really bad and anti-democratic. But if an entire political party in Texas picks up, gets on a private jet, and flies to Washington, D.C. while patting themselves on the back in order to deny the workings of democracy, that's not only not anti-democratic, it is pro-democratic, you see.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is mostly straw men. Ben Shapiro is taking down straw men. I've not seen anybody call what Texas Democrats did some kind of incredible act of heroism. It's like you don't have the majority, and Republicans in Texas are trying to pass a bill to stifle voting rights. So they are getting attention on what's going on. And the attention is leading to Texans calling their elected officials and saying, don't pass this bill. Don't pass this bill. They figured out a way to get attention on this. And Republicans reacted by saying, let's send Texas state troopers to arrest the Democrats. So it's not some incredible heroic thing, but it's an interesting way, given that you don't have the majority and the majority is trying to use their power to make it harder for people to vote, to get some attention on what's going on. That's it. It's not so black and white. It's not he's putting up a straw man and then taking it down.
Now, you may be saying to yourself, I don't see a consistent standard here. Correct. You don't.
You're not even telling the truth about what's being said.
There is none. There's no consistent standard. When it comes to the Democratic Party and the media, the answer is whatever forwards the agenda is good, and whatever does not forward the agenda is Jim Crow. And Joe Biden is fully on board with this, because the way you hold political power, according to Joe Biden, is you gin up an enormous amount of faux outrage, and then you claim that your political opponents are the equivalent of George Wallace standing in a schoolhouse door.
Oh, God, here we go.
Okay, so Texas Democrats absconded over the course of the last couple of days. They just picked up and they got in a private jet and they left. And they partied it up. In fact, they were bragging about what a wonderful time they were having in Washington, D.C. These are true emissaries of the people, by the way. They got in a private jet and they brought along a case of Miller Lite, just in case any of them decided that their drinking habit couldn't last for the...
How is this even remotely relevant to the 250 bills proposed after the November election to make it harder for people to vote? That's the issue. Miller Lite, private jets. Maybe these are important details to some people, but there's 250 bills trying to restrict voting rights.
4-hour flight from Texas, from Austin to Washington, D.C. Gene Wu, a Texas legislator, tweeted out a picture of what appears to be a Caesar salad with croutons. He said, "My fist meal as a fugitive." I assume he meant a first meal. I don't want to know what he does in the privacy of his own home. He said, "My fist meal as a fugitive. Delicious." Well, what a hero. And then he tweeted.
There's not even anything to respond. It's just so dumb, guys. It's so dumb. I don't know what else to even say about it. Who watches that? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay. Dive Down said, let's read some super chats. Keep it going, David. How can people not see Republican voter suppression? But I am for voter ID. Countries in Europe has it, but voter ID should be for free. Right. So here's the thing. I am not opposed to voter ID in principle. I am not opposed to voter ID in principle. I am not opposed to voter ID in principle. Whoa, hold on. The problem is that when you change the rules, right? When you change the rules, you have to think about what is the on-ramp for the rule change, and what documents are required to get the ID? How many places in the state can you get those documents? Do any of the documents you need to get your free ID cost money? Who is going to be unable if it takes, if you can only get some of these documents 9 to 5 Monday through Friday? Who is going to be able to disproportionately get that time off to go and get what they need versus not? Okay, so it's far more complex than they want to make it out to be. But in principle, I am not opposed to needing an ID to vote. It's the implementation that is being proposed that I am opposed to.